Welcome to today's lecture. We are going to look at the first topic of this unit, and that is fisheries policy. Under this topic, we are going to define key terms. We look at the importance of policies. Then we look at the policy development process. The fourth item here, which is examination of different policies within the industry, shall be done within our groups, and a presentation on the same presented. On the definition of key terms, the first term here is what we call a policy, and a policy is a set of guidelines, ideas, or a plan of what to do in a particular situation that has been agreed upon by a group of people, an organization, or a political party, or even a government institution to achieve a specific goal. The second term is fisheries resources, and this refers to the flora and fauna that predominantly inhabit aquatic habitats and are captured by humans for socio-economic goals or gain. We are saying flora and fauna that are predominantly aquatic and are harvested by humans for socio-economic goal. We have another term called aquaculture. This refers to the cultivation of aquatic organisms under controlled conditions. Next term is fishing, and fishing refers to the hunting or extraction of wild aquatic organisms, again for socio-economic gain. The next term, which is very key in policy issues, is what we call a stakeholder. And a stakeholder refers to a party, an organization, an institution, or an individual that has an interest in a sector, an industry, an institution, or a resource. Then tied to that is what we call stakeholder analysis. And this refers to the process of identifying stakeholders and assessing specific interests of each stakeholder, and identifying how the interests of each stakeholder should be addressed in a plan, in a policy program, or in an action. Another term of interest is implementation, and this refers to the act or process of putting a plan or an agreement into action. Importance of policies. There are 5 importances. Policies ensures accountability. Policies provide guidance, and that is proper guidance. Policies facilitate consistency, in that policies ensure that the process and activities do not deviate or vary over time despite changes in implementers, or what we call employee turnover. The fourth importance is that policies improve efficiency. And finally, policies enhance clarity. With well-documented policies, every player is 100% aware of what needs to be done, how it's to be done, and who is responsible for doing what. This leads to smooth operations, hence bringing clarity. Policy development process occurs in 5 stages that are not linear. It is a circular stage. The first stage is what we call agenda setting, or problem identification, or scoping. Stage 2 is policy formation or formulation. The third stage is decision making. Stage number 4 is policy implementation, and the 5th stage is policy evaluation. And depending on the outcome of this evaluation, the stage 1 can be revisited and the cycle continues. In agenda setting, this basically refers to identification of problems or challenges that impact an industry, and this is the initial identification, where all players, that is all the stakeholders or interested parties, bring out what they feel affects the industry. This process occurs in 4 stages. Stage number 1 is what we call systemic agenda setting, and here involves collection of challenges and problems from every stakeholder within the industry, irrespective of the mandate and the scope of the institution doing the policy. Stage 2 is what we call institutional agenda setting, and this one now involves sieving out the issues raised under systemic agenda with in mind the institutional capacity and mandate, also considering what is possible, what is feasible, and what is beyond reach. The third stage is discretionary agenda setting, and this one involves the work of specialists, the work of professionals who identifies challenges based on their expertise without reference to any stakeholder. The issues may be similar to what was raised in stage 1 and 2 or may not be same. Then the fourth stage is what we call decision agenda setting, and here now involves making a decision on which agenda are worth considering in policy formulation. It mainly considers outputs from institutional agenda and outputs from discretionary agenda. After that, we move to the next stage, which is policy formation or policy formulation. And this step involves the development of policy options within the relevant institutions, and it occurs after narrowing the range of possible policy choices and excluding those that are not possible, those that are out of range, those that are not practical, those that are infeasible. This step involves intense lobbying and debate by all stakeholders. Every stakeholder would want their choices to rank high. And because of the intense debate and lobbying, this stage takes the longest time in policy making process. After that, there is a stage of decision making, and in this step, all the experts, the leaders, the stakeholders decide on a particular course of action. And the course of action taken here is usually one that best addresses the problems of most stakeholders or most members of the public. And this stage ends with a set of new laws or an executive order that is to be implemented in form of a policy. Once that is done, then the policy is to be implemented. So policy implementation is the next stage, and policy implementation involves putting into effect the policy options that have been decided upon in the previous stage. And this one involves use of public resources, since we are now implementing an executive order or a new set of regulations. Once the policy is implemented, it is necessary to assess whether it meets the objectives that were set. And that examination of efficacy is what we call policy evaluation, and it is the last stage or stage 5. And the evaluation involves both parties within the institution implementing the policy and those outside the institution. There are 3 types of evaluation. You have the impact evaluation, process evaluation, and cost-benefit evaluation. Impact evaluation focuses on what has changed after the implementation of the policy. Then the process evaluation focuses on the procedures put aside to implement the policy. How effective are the procedures? How practical are the procedures? Are the procedures really working? Are they giving results, or they are inhibitive? Then the last type is what we call cost-benefit evaluation, and this one is basically to examine whether the benefits accrued are really worth the resources put. So it simply entails comparing the value of resources put into implementing the policy vis-a-vis the benefits accrued. A policy document has several sections. An ideal policy document has the following sections. We have the title page, and the title page we have the name of the institution developing the policy, we have the name of the policy, we have the name of the policy, and we have the time of policy development. We also have acronyms and abbreviations. We have other preliminary information such as the foreword, executive summary, and the preamble. Then from there we move to the main document that starts the introduction, and here we are keen on the background information. Then secondly, we have the current status. Here we are keen on the resources, the challenges, and the opportunities. From there, we have the policy guidelines and objectives. What is guiding that policy document, and what are the objectives of that policy? After that, there are policy statements, then strategies to achieve or to implement those policies, then the implementation matrix, then we have the conclusion and addendum. These are sort of an appendix. We have things like the institutional roles and the development team, among others. And after that long talk, it is time to jog our minds with some optional assignments which could be done in group or individually. And the first one is discuss the composition and functions of the Kenya Fish Marketing Authority as provided for in the Fisheries Management and Development Act of 2016. This question 2, as a newly employed fisheries officer in Kenya Fisheries Service, describe the actions you would take to ensure that your personal interests do not conflict with those of the government of Kenya or the employer. The third question, discuss the regulatory and statutory provisions for aquaculture waste management and aquaculture stock escapement in Kenya. And finally, identify and discuss the specific objectives of the Kenya National Oceans and Fisheries Policy of 2008. You have a good day, and let's meet in our next lecture, where we are going to look at the fisheries law with specific interest on the Fisheries Management and Development Act of 2016.